Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to feel calmer, more relaxed, and more at peace with your life and those around you, then do we have the HeartMath Show for you. Today I'll be talking with Howard Martin, one of the leaders and founders of HeartMath, co-author of the HeartMath Solution, and a contributing author to a brilliant book on coherence, Heart Intelligence. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, about connecting with the intelligence of the heart for greater health, peace, and happiness. That, plus we'll talk about oak trees and redwoods, Joss and Mabel, why the heart is smarter than the brain, and what in the world glowworms and chameleons have to do with anything. So welcome back to the show, Howard. Gotcha. Are you ready to shine?
Good to be back with you, Michael, here at the beginning of our year 2019. It's always a fun interview to do with you, and thanks for having me again.
Oh, it is so wonderful to have you on the show, and a mighty woohoo! So people can go and listen to our other shows. They can get your background information, how you came to HeartMath, how you came to all this. We're just going to shortcut it today and go right into the depth of things.
Cool.
What is heart intelligence, and is the heart smart?
Heart intelligence is an aspect of us that's essential for living a meaningful life. It's an intelligence that we all have. We've experienced it many times in our life, often randomly. Mm-hmm. It's high speed. It's intuitive. It's that part of ourself that gives us a sense of self-security. To me, the heart's intelligence is the birthplace of emotions that give us the most regeneration, like more care, more kindness, more compassion, more appreciation. Those type of emotions that we really want to have more of in our life come from the heart. It can be characterized many ways. I mean, some people can identify with heart intelligence through something like courage. It's not soft, it's not squishy, it's courageous, it's powerful, it's strong.
Le coeur, from the heart.
That's right, the French word, and so it's a lot of those qualities that we have within us that are really the best aspects of who we are as human beings. And we call all that put together heart intelligence. And we have done a lot of research to correlate physical heart activity with an intelligence. And that's where some of our early research came in, is understanding heart-brain-body communication and how the heart actually does send signals to the brain and to the rest of the body, and how the brain, for example, is critically dependent upon information it gets from the heart. So there's a lot of interesting facts that we found along the way that supported that and led us down that road of scientific inquiry. Today, there's a huge body of scientific research that HeartMath has done, not only on that, but on other subjects. I think there are over 700 published research papers today on HeartMath, and somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 sightings in research literature of our research. So the body of research is huge. And it all started with, hey, we're experiencing something in ourselves. It has a lot to do with what we call heart. What can we show scientifically that would support, what's happening inside of us? And we had to do that, of course, from a very neutral perspective. But the more we explored, the more we researched, the more we discovered. And today we've told an amazing story that shows us about an aspect of ourselves that we didn't know was there.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now you shortcutted the question. I actually wrote down soft emotions, and then you brought up courage, and I love it when that happens. When I don't have to say something and you answer it already.
Yeah.
Since some people say heart soft, got to go with the head, physical intelligence with the heart, what did you first start to see in the science? What is backing this up?
Well, what's backing it up is that, certain things that was in the research literature but not well known, nobody put the pieces together. For example, most of the people listening today probably don't know this. The heart has a nervous system studied through a field called neurocardiology. Next to the brain, it's the most complex part of the nervous system that we have by far. This nervous system sends signals to the brain. The brain sends some signals down to the heart controlling timing, but the heart sends a lot more information to the brain than it ever gets from the brain. So you have this neurological conversation happening all the time between heart and brain. I call that a who knew? Who knew that was actually happening? I just thought it was pumping blood, right? And there's other stuff too. I mean, like 1983, we'll go back as far as that.
Sure.
The heart was actually reclassified as being not only a cardiovascular organ, but a hormonal gland. The reason is they found that the heart was producing a lot of hormones, like a hormonal gland would. Atrial peptide, which reduces the stress hormone cortisol, oxytocin, DHEA, all these hormones are being produced by the heart. And so we have this neurochemical communication going on. Again, it was published. but who knew? Who knew that the heart was doing that? So there was that and a lot more. We also began to decode the understanding of how to measure the quality of heart brain body communication.
Okay.
And that came about by looking at heart rhythms. And
Hmm.
the scientific discipline of looking at heart rhythms is actually called heart rate variability analysis, HRV for short. And it's easier for a southerner like me to say HRV than it is heart rate variability. So, HRV is looking at the timing between heartbeats.
Hmm.
It's not the same thing as measuring heart rate like a fitness monitor would. It's measuring the timing between each heartbeat. And those timings are constantly varying depending upon what we're doing. If I'm moving, if I'm talking, there's variance that's going on there. Our discovery was simply this: emotions are affecting those heart rhythms.
Hmm.
And when the heart rhythms are sort of very jagged and irregular and chaotic, it's not good for us. It doesn't help our brain. It's certainly not good for our heart or our nervous system. But when they become more smooth and ordered, like I'll draw with my fingernail, like a sine wave, like
Yeah.
this, where the heart is speeding up at a certain point, it naturally slows back down and then speeds up again. That is like promoting higher brain function, intuition, all kinds of qualities and characteristics are coming from that. And it's also a very healthy state. It's good for our nervous system, it's good for our physical heart. It causes the release of hormones in the body, like more DHEA and oxytocin, that are regenerative to us. Now, what we were able to do through that research and understanding the measurement of heart rhythms is we could look and see what's the quality of this heart brain body communication.
Hmm.
The more smooth and ordered the pattern, the better it was. And so our scientists created very sophisticated algorithms that were determining heart rate variability quality. And that was what was unique to us. Heart rate variability was already around before us, but the quantification of it was where we came in. And so that's the patented part of our research, of our technology, for example. We don't patent heart rate variability, we patent coherence measurements. We patent, the ability to provide meaning to what those waveforms and those heart rhythms actually are doing inside our body.
Awesome. Going to go in about a dozen different directions here. We're going to try to bring it back on track. First off, you said the quality of heart brain communication. Can we draw a linear relationship, a direct relationship between the quality of heart brain communication and the quality of our lives?
Absolutely. And I'll put it in really street context for you right now. Let's forget science for a minute.
Sure, go for it.
When we are engaged with our heart, when we are feeling that heart within ourselves, when we are feeling more appreciative or loving or kind, life just gets a lot better quick. It goes better. It goes more in a flow. Think about it. When you are in a state where you're complaining and griping about everything, it seems like things continually get worse. The sort of the flow of life is choppy. It's always a resistance to this, or this didn't go my way, or I didn't get what I wanted, and all those type of things are always there. When you flip into a more heart-related state like appreciation, where you're seeing the good in things, where you're seeing small things in your life that you may not have noticed before that you can appreciate, when you're appreciating in the moment like now, like being with you on this program, having a chance to do this, life has a different texture to it, doesn't it? It bri
Absolutely.
The light brightens, the world begins to look differently when you see it through that lens. And so activating heart intelligence, improving heart brain body communication has those type of effects. And that's a street understanding. At a scientific or medical understanding,
Yeah.
here's what happens. When you shift out of those jagged, chaotic rhythms and you shift into that smooth sine wave like pattern, what happens is the heart sends signals to the brain that begin to open up the higher perceptual centers in our brains, the neocortex. They become more active and alive. The neocortex does. When that happens, then all of a sudden we have more access to more of our brain's intelligence. The brain's the big winner in this. It's
Yep.
not a competition between heart and brain, right? So the brain comes out with more activity. And when that happens, we begin to perceive differently. We differentiate differently. We begin to see into things with wider angle views. That's when problem solving improves. That's when communication improves. That's when our feelings of connection to others improves. And so switching those signals, flipping that switch has a lot to do with how the brain functions and how we are perceiving ourselves, each other, life itself, the world, all of that changes, which is kind of cool because it goes back to an old phrase that we've heard most of us have heard our whole lives of it, that a change of heart changes everything.
Woohoo!
And, yeah, and so scientifically, we've shown that, yeah, right on down to the physical heart and how it's sending information. When that changes, life changes. So, change of heart does change everything.
Beautiful. Thank you. I do a lot of, well, I do heart coherence work in the morning with this device, this M-Way device, which we'll be talking about in a minute here. And then I do my automatic writing, something that we teach people about. I got something interesting in automatic writing about a week ago, which is the mind is the child, the heart is the elder.
Hmm.
And the heart is the wise elder that helps give discipline, control, and boundaries for the mind.
Right. Well, that's strong and powerful. I would agree with that. Let me talk about heart intelligence from a little different angle of view now that you've brought that into play.
Please
Okay.
do.
So, to me, when we are in these higher states of awareness and consciousness, where intuition's flowing like that in your automatic writing or whatever, what's happening is we're accessing a field of information that beyond just sort of the boxes of logical linear information. So it's a wider angle information. It's different. It's high speed. It's often called intuition. Now, in my experience, those type of accesses to intuition and access to larger, more wide intelligence happen when I'm connected to my heart. So, what I've determined about that is that the heart is really my connection to higher intelligence. It's through here that it happens. Now, it's transmitted at super, super high speed to the brain.
Yeah.
So the brain starts to turn it into thoughts or pictures or words and things like that. So somehow or another, it appears as if it's happening in the brain. The brain's getting credit for that. My experience, this is a non-scientific statement I'm going to make, but my experience is the heart is where that happens first. The
Yep.
heart is the entry point, and it is like the master controller in the body, and the brain is really, um, you could call it a child. I don't want to demean the brain. You could call it a servant. I don't want to use that term either, but it's it's being embraced by heart. Let's put it that way.
Maybe we even call it, I don't know why I want to think of it as the bus driver rather than the person who's actually planning where it's going to go, but it's the tool to be used by the heart. It is hugely important, but you don't want the bus driver mapping out the route. You want that as the higher level person. That's the heart.
There you go. Good analogy. Yeah, excellent.
So on that note, and I want to dive into heart coherence in a second, but I want to talk about when we're talking about the heart driving the ship, can you tell us about what the heart is emitting and why that's so much more powerful, I'll put that in quotes, than the brain?
Well, let's put it this way. At the very most basic physiological level, the heart is producing electricity. It's an electrical organ. It's that electrical signal produced by our beating heart is what a doctor measures when we get an electrocardiogram. They're measuring the electrocardiogram, the electrical signal produced by the heart. Well, as it turns out, that electricity produced by the heart is by far the strongest source of electricity we have in our body. It's 40 to 60 times stronger than the second most powerful source, which is the brain. So 40 to 60 more times electrical power being produced by the heart than by the brain. Now, the heart produces enough electricity that it creates an electromagnetic field. You have a picture of it in a similar way behind you. That's what the
Yeah.
heart's field looks like at our physical body. You have the globe there, but it's actually a torus-shaped electromagnetic field that's produced by the heart. Now, this electromagnetic field that I'm speaking of now is something that's measurable with very traditional research equipment. They're called magnetometers. They measure electromagnetic fields. So I'm not speaking about other types of energy fields like subtle energy or auras, anything like that. I'm talking about the very measurable electromagnetic energy. Well, the heart's producing enough electromagnetic energy. It does create a field that extends beyond our skin out into space about 3 to 4 feet. And it's a torus shaped field like the one behind you now. So we're producing this field in 360 degrees all around us. So
Yeah.
we're broadcasting electromagnetic energy from the heart. The story gets a lot more interesting. The field is constantly changing, whereas the frequencies of the information in that field are constantly modulating.
Wow.
And here's what modulates them.
Why am I getting this image in my head of really this is an optic fiber?
Well, it could
Information.
be, yeah, it could be an optic fiber information at a higher dimensional level. Yeah.
All right, go.
So the field's changing all the time, and what's modulating the field is our emotions.
Mhm.
If we're experiencing frustration, anger, irritation, impatience, those kind of feelings, it produces a very incoherent frequency pattern. When we are conversely, in a state that's associated with this concept of heart, like let's say we're feeling more compassion, we're feeling more care, we're feeling more love, we're feeling more courage, we're feeling all of those type of things. That field changes and becomes more ordered. And so all the time we're literally broadcasting what we're feeling through this heart's electromagnetic field. So this takes us into the next phase of heart math research.
Yeah.
Have already mapped out heart brain body communication, and our scientist, Dr. Roland McCready, and his team are actually some of the leading experts in the world on heart rate variability. So this is like we've been doing this now 28 years, so that's behind us in a certain way. Where we are today is understanding the energetic connectivity between all living systems,
Awesome.
how these fields relate to one another. What's going on with this heart field, and how does it relate to the field of anything else around me? What's going on in the field environment that I'm in? How is the heart sensing that? How is the heart contributing to that? And then we can take it into nonlinear understandings or nonlinear exploration. Let me put it that way. My feeling is there's a field created right now between you and I and everyone that's listening.
Yeah.
And that field is not bound in any way by where we are. So it's not bound by space. And somebody could be looking at this show weeks from now or a year from now. And so they would be experiencing the same field. So it's not bound by time either.
Hmm.
So it's a field that we're creating through a shared experience, not bound by time or by space. That field is most experienced, most accessed, and most contributed to by the heart.
I love it. And it speaks to, we've got a group coaching program coming up, and in our small way, and Joe Dispenza doing it in his large way, you get a group of people together, you get them in coherence together, you build this field, and magic happens.
That's right.
I'll put magic in
Exactly right.
quotes. It's real.
Exactly. And, we're showing this more and more and more in our research about when people come together, what's happening. A lot of the research we're doing today is on something that we call, we always bring this down to something that's very, conservative sounding so we can offer it to the world at large. We call it social coherence research.
Yeah.
But it's really what happens when groups get together and when they change internal state, when they change their own internal vibratory rates, their own energetics, what happens? And it does go into areas that could be called magic. Magic is often something that's actually real, it's just not understood. Therefore, we assign the name magic to it, right? But we're starting to show that lots goes on when people are connected through the heart in a way, and that can cause dynamic changes in the field environment where the people are, but also beyond that into how that affects the world as a whole. It gives us another level of co-creative power when we learn to connect with ourselves first and then connect with others.
I think of all of the science experiments that Dr. Dean Radin has done and that he's
Yeah,
compiled and brought together. You just get a 9/11 or any event, and you've got your random number generators that are suddenly not random because
yeah,
everybody is focused on the same
that's right.
thing at the same time.
Yeah, well, the live events that I do, that stuff starts to happen all the time, and we're going to start to measure it more. And it really that's why one of the reasons I still like doing live events. There's
Mhm.
something about that whole thing that's magic in a certain way, and so that's one of the things that I always try to help facilitate the creation of. It's a shared experience that lifts everybody, And you mentioned Joe Dispenza. Well, Joe's a good friend of mine. We've been friends for many years now, and he and I talk about this stuff regularly. I'm going to be with him in a few weeks. He's having me come to his next event,
Yeah.
use our technology, and work with him and his team within the context of what he does to add another level of dynamics to that whole experience that he's creating for people there. So there's a synergy and a back and forth working relationship between Joe and HeartMath, and it's going to get even more dynamic in about 3 weeks.
I love it.
Yeah,
So I think if I remember correctly, the last time we were speaking with you, you were putting different stations, measuring devices around the planet because we can look at the Earth as a heart as well, as a coherent system. And what we're doing with our hearts and minds affects the field around the entire planet.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's another aspect of what we do. It's a part of our nonprofit. It's called the Global Coherence Initiative.
Yeah.
And what you're showing behind you actually is a image of the Earth's geomagnetic field.
Yeah.
So we do know, everybody knows, I mean, that the Earth produces its own fields. They're energetic fields. One's a geomagnetic field, which you're showing. The other is the ionosphere, which works in consort with the geomagnetic field. And these two fields are there providing a protective layer around the Earth. And what they're protecting us from is space weather. solar radiation, cosmic rays,
Hmm.
solar winds, all those space activities. Now, those fields are important because without them, there could be nothing that we would associate with life that would be here. This would be a rock.
Yeah.
The fields protect us from those type of external influences. Now, those fields, the Earth's fields are constantly changing. They're all the time fluctuating. Solar radiation is one of the primary, if not the primary, reason that they change. But a lot of research has already been done by other organizations and also by HeartMath, showing that these fields are affecting human health and behavior in very demonstrable ways.
Yeah.
Definitively, it's understood now that changes in the fields are affecting human health and behavior. So,
To give an example for people would be if you had a what they call a solar storm and
right,
something ejected from, and you can show stroke rates, heart attack rates, people who go
yep,
get incarcerated all go up at those times.
exactly. Yeah, solar flare happens, hits the geomagnetic field changes that influences things like physical health, like like you mentioned, heart attacks, all that stuff, hospital admissions, crime, all of that. Here's another thing to know about it, though, Michael, is that also scientists have gone back and looked at peak at solar cycle history and can see that some of the greatest flourishings in human history, where the production of art and
Yeah.
literature and all that stuff happened, were during high solar peak cycles. And so, what that says is that the influences that these fields are having on us are neither positive or negative.
Mhm.
It's neutral in a way. It's about how we interpret them, what we do with that extra influence. So it comes back to us, you and me, everybody listening, the choices that we make moment to moment, day to day. I mean, I can't get away with it. I tried it once just for fun. My wife says, "Look, you kind of out of phase here. You need to get your act together." And look, you don't understand. There's a solar flare happening. And she goes, "Well, I don't really care."
Well, I saw that coming. Jessica would have been
Yeah.
all over me for that one.
Yeah, you go. Yeah. So, this it still comes back to us doing our own inner work,
Yeah.
making the right choices. But the fields are affecting us. So, with the Global Coherence Initiative, what we've done is create a part of our nonprofit. People can become members of the Global Coherence Initiative. Yeah, we use the energetic contributions of these 75 to 100,000 people that are members to focus on helping to create a new and better world, to offset some of the planetary density that happens, etc. Now, on the science side, our scientists, working in consort again with other scientists, have created very sensitive technology that's measuring changes in the geomagnetic and ionospheric fields.
Yeah.
And they have been placing what's called global coherence monitoring sites
Yeah.
at strategic locations around the world. These monitoring sites are feeding information back to our research labs where I'm located now in Northern California. And we are monitoring changes occurring in the fields. Now, we're doing this for three reasons.
Yeah.
Reason one, let's contribute more to the academic literature about the fields because they're not fully understood. There's a lot to be discovered about these fields, so we'll contribute to the academic literature. Reason number two, to do more research that builds the baseline understanding, confirming the effects and the more specific effects these fields are having on us. And three is to test a hypothesis.
Yeah.
If these fields are affecting us, are we also affecting them? We have 7 billion plus people on the planet now, all producing a field.
Yeah. One heck of a battery.
One heck of a battery. Is that mass human field being produced by the emotions of all of these 7 billion people having any impact on these fields? And if so, what kind? And so here's where it gets interesting. Let's suppose for a second that this is true, that
Mhm.
after years of research, we determine from the hypothesis has been proven. And we have to approach it very neutrally, but let's say for hypothetical sake that it's proven.
Yeah.
And what we could say then is, okay, let me draw you a triangle.
Mhm.
We produce our own coherent field.
Yeah.
We do our own inner work and we make connection with our heart's intelligence. We blend that collectively with others. That puts out a signal that impacts the geomagnetic and ionospheric fields. And they in turn change in a way that feeds back down into people.
Yeah.
And then people begin to change. So you have this, here we are, we contribute to the fields come back down, here we are again. So you can create changes in the fields that can promote positive changes in the individuals, that can make it easier for people who are struggling, especially, to find that place inside themselves where they do come into their very best selves, where they become their true authentic self and where they find their own self security. We create that by generating from our heart into the fields collectively and letting the fields come back and influence us. That's hypothesis right now, but an interesting one to explore.
Well, we've both, and I'm so glad you're exploring this. We've both been in a meditative environment, another environment with a quote, I'll put them in quotes, guru, with somebody that becomes a tugboat and is contagious to the field in the room. And there's a feedback loop that takes place and a tipping point. And what you're
Yeah,
talking about here is a global tipping point where, for instance, we had a guest on the show very recently. We were talking about the survival of the planet, the earth, water, soil, the works, which
yeah.
from an intellectual point is very hard to understand how we're going to do it. But if you hit a global tipping point where things shift, forget about it's even changing form, but consciousness opens up and an entirely different world of what's possible becomes possible.
That's right, and that's what's happening. It does, in my opinion, it doesn't happen in big bangs, like where all of a sudden everything's different.
Yeah.
But it's happening very quickly, faster than we actually realize, because we're seeing it through our day to day, and very often we're just seeing it through the struggles that we have, the challenges that are taking place. When we can back off from that, get the wider angle view, bring in the heart's intelligence, what I see is I see a new world emerging right in the midst of the old one, a new one that's really happening, and it's happening very, very quickly now. Most people want the Big Bang effect. They want to just see this massive thing happen, something grandiose occurs. That's not really the way evolution works. And consciousness evolution is a stepping stone process. But I'm saying that right now, when you step back and really look at it, that progression is happening as fast as we can handle it. It's happening at super fast speed. So new understanding, new awareness, new choices are coming into play amidst the backdrop of all this chaos and confusion that we see. And people are changing. And they're changing all over the world. And it's amazing to watch and see unfold. So, yeah, we're hitting tipping points and we'll continue to hit them. Um, and as we do, new things can happen faster than we ever thought. Um, I mean, I can give you a really simple
Please do.
street example of that. Most everybody has one of these now,
That's what I was just
right?
thinking about.
They have a little computer in their pocket, and it's now the early part of 2019. Nobody ever knew that this thing existed or knew anything about it until June 27th, 2007,
Mhm.
when Steve Jobs stood on a stage and said, "I've got a new thing called the iPhone I'm going to show you." And he showed this thing to the world. Well, within 10 years, it changed the way we live. Everybody had one. We spend hours on these things. We access information. We do all kinds of stuff on this device. And it spread worldwide just like that. Well, that's an analogy of a technology. What happens when behavior falls into the same type of a pattern?
Mhm.
As certain shared behaviors begin to just that we never knew existed, that we hadn't thought about before. All of a sudden, we get onto it and it spreads like wildfire.
Text, social media, who knows?
Yeah, I'm talking about internal text, internal social media. Behavior change. Begins to change. What the way we think, the way we feel, the way we treat each other, leading us to new innovations that happen on the outside. Maybe new technologies or new ways of cooperating would be great examples of that. And that gives me great hope because I know that when it does hit, when the tipping point is hit, every time changes. Everything just changes and goes so fast. It defies the logical frameworks that we usually see change as. We see change in a different way. So it all of a sudden just happens, and it happens very quickly. Now, in some ways, it already is happening, but I think we'll hit new tipping points will become even more obvious. The iPhone or the smartphone is just an example of that, and new technology is coming anyway. It's going to happen, in the cooperation now with one of the world leading authorities on virtual reality. And he has told me that the same thing is getting ready to happen with virtual reality, that it's going to happen so fast that we don't even know what hit us. That it's not big headsets that you stick on and all that, that they've already way past that. They're already moving in new directions. That it's going to change the way we receive information.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen very quickly. So it's going to sneak up on you. It's going to happen so fast that you never saw it coming. Um, and so there are things like that that happen on the externals, but they don't happen unless we make changes on the internal. And that's what I'm about, and that's what HeartMath is about.
So let's talk about the internals. And first off, I'm very, very curious, and then I want to get into this device that I have here. What are
Sure.
you measuring at your live events?
Well, we're getting ready to measure the amount of coherence points
Mhm.
that are being generated by the group. In other words,
Ooh,
when you use our technology, the more coherent you get, the more smooth you make that your heart rhythms.
yeah.
It score the algorithm scores it and assigns points every 5 seconds. It'll say you're at 4.3, you're at 3.1, you're at 7.8, or whatever, and it adds those up, right? And so our technology does that, and that's what I use mine for. I set goals. I know the amount of points I want to accumulate every day, week, month, etc. And it's called the Inner Balance Trainer, and that's what I use. It's on my smartphone with a sensor that connects to my ear. The new technology that we're coming out with soon, and I'm not going to give you a date, I'm not even going to give it a name because I don't want anybody looking for it yet, but it allows us to set up groups and to have collective coherence scores so that we can go in and say, okay, this group right now has generated another 5,000 coherence points in the last 15 minutes. Yeah, and we can begin to benchmark the amount of coherence points that are being actually derived from that group. Uh, so that's one of the new things that'll be out this year from us. Some of the other things that we're working on are very interesting as well. Um, we'll be able to use the actual waveforms themselves and begin to show the synchronization and desynchronization between people right at the heart rate
Wow.
variability waveform levels. And we may be able to get that to up to where we can see that in a group as large as 30. So what you'll be able to see is, let's say a group dynamic is happening, you'll be able to see people moving in and
Mhm.
out of relationship with one another by changes occurring in the synchronization or desynchronization of heart rhythms. That's coming this year as well. So these are new ways in which we're measuring group dynamics. So in my live events, I do demonstrations of the technology from the stage. We do, various things, the meditations we do and all of that. This year, I'll be able to show the collective coherence points being generated by the people in the audience. That have the technology. You'll provide some sensors for them to use while I'm there. We'll be able to start benchmarking all of that, and that's going to start happening for me. My first event doing that will happen in March in Frankfurt, Germany, and that's where I'm going to unveil this new technology.
Beautiful. If you need a beta group, since we're doing heart coherence work with the groups that we work with,
Cool.
let us know. I'm there for you.
Yeah, we've got a beta we have to do on this new technology, and I may get you on the friends and families list. We want to make some changes in it before it goes to the public, and we want the public's feedback first. We want feedback from people so we can, dial it in so it's the best experience. I've already experienced it. A lot of it, the technology itself is really cool. It works. That's not a problem. It's like, how does the user experience it? What's the user experience, the user interface that's called, and that's where the refinements will take place. Is what's the user experience of it? The technology itself is more than fully functional,
Yeah.
and it's working very very well right now. But that's coming, and it's coming soon. And so it ties into something I said earlier about we're into to looking at energetic connectivity between all living systems, and we're into looking at social coherence now. And the technology is a reflection of those things that we're doing in terms of our research and our own understanding. Because our mission at HeartMath is really to unfold, first of all, individual coherence,
Yeah.
then social coherence, and then global coherence. So it's individual, social, global. So we're always working to create that individual and social coherence progression, and just doing what we do to try to usher in this new and better world to participate in the unfoldment of something that's already happening.
I'm interested, and I want to talk about individual coherence here in a second, but I'm thinking we live where there are deer, there are elk, there are all these animals that come to our house, and
Yeah.
we literally notice a difference in how the animals act with us if we consciously focus on getting into a state of coherence.
Yeah. Well, we've done studies on that. We've shown examples of that. You mentioned in the very beginning, we were talking about Josh and
Oh,
Mabel.
yeah.
Well, Josh and Mabel is a story of a boy and a dog. The dog was mine, a wonderful Labrador retriever. The boy was the son of a director of research at HeartMath. His name was Josh. The boy's name was Josh McCready. The dog's name was Mabel. Josh was close to Mabel. He was in an after school program at my house where he bonded with the dog. His father wanted to know if he could measure anything. So he basically, put a heart rhythm recorder on the boy and then one on the dog.
Yeah.
He put them in separate rooms, He then told his son to walk into the room where Mabel was, but don't pet her, just walk in. He walks in the room, and the graph that I show is amazing. It just blam, all of a sudden there it is. You see the boy and the dog go into the coherent state at the same time, almost instantaneously when he walks in the room. And as soon as he leaves the room, his heart rhythm changes and the dog's changes, right? It goes back to the more chaotic normal pattern. But when he walked in the room, there was a synchronization that occurred instantly between the boy and the dog. Now, that's been replicated with horses. I've got many anecdotal stories like yours and others about people that work with animals that have shared the same thing with me. Um, I've had uh, stories of people who've seen phenomenal changes occurring in their pets, as they begin to change. They can see that there's a synergy that's going on
Yeah.
between the pet and the person. Now, my feeling is that animals, whether it's the elk or the deer that come to your yard or the deer that I have here in my yard or whatever, is that they have their own intelligence. And it's a
Oh,
very
heck
sensitive
yeah.
intelligence. They don't read books and they don't talk, but they have an intelligence and a sensitivity that's really amazing. And in many cases, it far exceeds a human. And so they're very sensitive to the energetics that we are putting out. Um, they don't base their anything about their relationship to us on what we say. Matter of fact, I've learned with the deer that we have, the deer come very close here to us, and we've never tried to engage them or tame them or anything. We've just coexisted with them for almost 30 years now here
Yeah.
at the HeartMath facility. And what I noticed early on was as soon as I spoke, they'd start moving away. The actual voice was not something that they responded to, but if I didn't speak and I just sort of hung out and just sent them a little love and care and
Right.
all that, they just stay right there and casual. As soon as I began to talk is when they began to get, less engaged. So verbal communication has nothing to do with what they get through communication. So you're right. You get more coherent, the animals may act differently. And there's many things. I mean, I don't want to take it down to just animals. That's just a fun thing.
Yeah.
It's really about how life responds when we're in a more coherent place.
No, absolutely. How people respond around you, how your family responds, how situations unfold. Once you get in a coherent state, it changes everything. You did mention something interesting here. I'm going to come back to this, everybody, because I've got questions. But holding up this M-Wave device here, you said sending love, and I'm wondering how much testing has been done remotely on people getting in coherence at a distance.
Well, there has been some. I don't have anything to cite for you right now, but certainly we've seen results in that. There have been other experiments that have shown that as well by other people. It's obviously a non-local effect that's happening, and you think about it, this is not a new concept.
Yeah.
Um, the thing I realized one day is, wait a minute, this has been going on for a long time. Why is it that people or just regular folks decide they want to pray for another person who's sick?
Amen.
There's something intuitive that says if I put my love out and ask, in this case, maybe ask a higher power or whatever to help me,
Mhm.
I'm going to use my radiation or my prayer or my intention, whatever you want to call it, to help this person.
Mhm.
And it's been going on for thousands of years. Modern science is just beginning to show it's real. And there are some really cool and dynamic things that have happened. Like I said, I can't remember off the top of my head right now about that, but it's definitely non-local. It's not bound by time or by space. And we are influencing each other. Here's another way of looking at it. We all live in this vast field of energy that's reflecting back to us, not what we think up here, but what we feel right here. And there's also a vast web of energetic connections that bonds and links every living system on this planet and beyond. And that's the field we're playing in. That's the web of connections in which we exist as human beings. Becoming more aware of that, more sensitive to that, and then turned into something pragmatic can make life a lot different. So the study of it, the glamour of it's not where I'm interested in. I'm interested in saying, okay, I believe that's true. How do I use it
All
to,
right.
to create a better life for me and a better life for others? There you go. M
So
wave 2.
M-Wave 2, we're talking pragmatic here. So I have been smartphone free forever, not cell phone free. I've got an emergency one. I don't even know the phone number to it. But I wanted to be online when I'm online, offline when I'm online. So I got your device. With that said, I believe that's changing. I have a 9 Plus Galaxy in the other room because I just got a Tesla. And you have to use your phone to control your car.
That's right. Gotcha.
They got me.
Yeah.
So, but I don't actually have to wire it up. I can use it as a device for calls, but I don't actually have to do data. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I want to use this device to help me, to help others, whatever that means. So
Okay.
I got your device that doesn't need a cell phone. I got your M-Wave 2. I have been using this on a daily basis. I gave myself a 30-day challenge when I spoke to you. I believe it was back in July. And I've missed 2, maybe 3 days total since then of using this device each and every morning. Here's
Cool.
what I do know from it: more resilience, more of a buffer for whatever takes place in my life, more patience, better sleep. I can't say specifically lower blood pressure, but I've got a watch that measures, I believe it's heart rate variability, measures my stress level, and I've watched that truck way down. And it has helped in so many other areas. So first off, what am I doing with this that's making a difference? Then I've got some geek out questions because I want to understand the numbers.
Okay, cool. First of all, those are some of the benefits that come from regular practice of increasing our own internal coherence. I'm so glad that you're experiencing those things and you're noticing them. You know, so regular practice at just making contact with our heart's intelligence and learning to shift those heart rhythms has a host of benefits, everything from feelings of more resilience right down to physiological effects that could actually be down to measurable things like blood pressure. So the technology was designed to give people a tool to help them do that. I mean, you can become more coherent without ever touching a piece of technology, just like you can live your life without a cell phone. But in the context of this, why not have tools and aids to do that? So we created this technology, many years ago. The first version was actually released in 1999, computer-based version. Then we did take it to a handheld version, which is M-Wave, and then we came out with M-Wave 2, and then the newer iterations of it, are actually on smartphones and tablets with a sensor. Now, there are people, not just you, that really want simple. They don't want more stuff on their phone.
Mhm.
They don't want necessarily extra sensors to carry around. And though they like the M-Wave 2 because it's simple, it's measuring your coherence level, and it divides that coherence level into 3 basic sections: low coherence, medium coherence, and high coherence. That is reflected on the top of your device, as you know, with a little light. When you're in low coherence, that little light is red. When you're in medium coherence, that little light is blue. And when you're in high coherence, that little light is green. Your goal is to get to the green and stay there as long as you can, right?
Yeah.
Low coherence isn't bad, it's a normal state. Medium means you've improved it. You're becoming a lot more coherent. Green means you're in this higher coherent state that really opens up the brain and creates more flow and a lot of different benefits we've already talked about. So you use the technology like that to practice whatever techniques that work for you. We have our own techniques, and you can practice them. HeartMath techniques, they're designed for this sort of thing, but people have their own techniques sometimes that they like to try and use it with, and that's fine. And so you're really measuring your coherence level in the M-Wave 2, which my wife still uses. My
Yeah.
wife is the CEO of HeartMath. She could have whatever technology we've created anytime she wants it. And every morning I see her sitting there in her little meditation place doing her work with her M-Wave 2. So
Very, very good.
sometimes people don't need to see the waveforms and the points and all that. They just want to get red, blue, green.
So I may have to talk to you offline about getting one for my new phone. I know Jessica has one. She uses it on almost a daily basis. Let's talk about the numbers here.
Okay.
So first off, you have 3 different columns in here: low, medium, and high. And you can coexist in these at the same time. What does that really mean?
Okay, ask the question again because I didn't really follow it exactly.
I'll look on the computer screen when I'm looking at
Okay.
an M-Wave 2, and
Okay.
it will tell me if I'm out of coherence, if I'm in coherence, what the
Okay.
number is, but it'll also give me 3, it looks like vials, columns.
Okay. Got it.
One
Okay.
is a low, medium, and high.
So let me explain to everyone listening that the M-Wave 2, actually you can connect it to your computer. And there's software you get when you get an M-Wave 2, so it will display what's happening in the M-Wave 2 on the screen also.
Yeah.
A lot of people just use the M-Wave 2 by itself. They don't look at the screen, but some people do exactly like you're doing. They use it as a sensor that you can project on the screen. So you're looking at the screen and you're seeing your heart rate variability pattern moving at the top. And then you're seeing down here on the lower right-hand side, you're seeing these 3 bars moving up and down, right?
Mhm.
That's showing your coherence level. at any given moment. It changes every 5 seconds. So when you see a bar in red, it means you're in low coherence. Blue means medium, green means high. Now, the numbers at the bottom, if you notice, will always add up to 100.
Yeah.
So what they're showing is the percentage of time you've been in each of those 3 levels
The percentage of time. Beautiful.
while you're using it. So it may say, let's just say right now it says 23 under the red, um, 35 under the blue, and then the difference between that and 100 under the green, right? And that's constantly changing. So you get to the end of the session, it says, I used this thing for 15 minutes, and 75% of the time I was in high coherence, 25% I was in medium coherence, 25% I was in low. So those numbers are representing the percentage of time that you were in each of the 3 states.
Very good. Now let's talk about the numbers, about the points that you have a scale, and first question that Jessica has is, what does that go up to? Because the first day she broke 10, which she didn't know you could break 10. Her face got beet red. She had all of these temporary physiological symptoms. She looked like she'd just been in a tanning booth.
Tell her to relax. She's trying too hard.
My God, what has she done?
Well, those numbers represent, the more ordered that sine wave pattern, the more ordered the rhythmic beating of the heart gets, the higher that number goes. And so you can keep refining it and refining it and refining it. And I guess there's an absolute in the algorithm somewhere, but I haven't found it. I have seen my numbers go as high as 12 and 13.
Yeah.
Highest number I've ever seen is 13. I believe that it probably would go higher. So it gets into really refined incremental type things. What's most important to me in looking at the numbers is 2 things. One is not about how high I got during the time, it's the average. So when you finish a session, it shows you your average coherence score. So my average coherence score, let's say it was 6.3 for that session, I mean, and all that. Okay. Now, so I'm looking for average coherence score. I'm looking to improve my average coherence score. Now, when I first started using that technology, my average coherence score would be like maybe a 4. Today, it's over 7.
Wow.
The session I just did a little bit before we did our interview, I was at an 8, and so it can improve. Now, the points, you see another number that shows a bunch of points, like let's say 560 or 2010, points over here. Well, every 5 seconds, whatever coherent number you are in is added to the last coherent number you're in. So 4.3, then 5 seconds later, you're at 5.2, where it's adding 4.3 to 5.2, and it's doing that every 5 seconds for the whole time that you're using it. So you're accumulating points, and the higher you are at any given time, the more points you're adding to that point total. Does that make sense? So you get to the end, and it's the total amount of points that you generated during your session. Now, I don't know if you've done this, but you can hook your M-Wave technology to the Heart Cloud. You register on the Heart Cloud, and the Heart Cloud, you get your own dashboard, and it shows your accumulated points. And that's where you set your goals, and that's where you decide how many points you want to get every day and that sort of thing.
So let's talk about gaming the system, because this is only for our benefit. First off, I tend to get stuck personally around 6 or 7. Slowing down the breath, at some point, I guess I'm straining too much. It actually goes back down. I'm focusing on my heart. I'm breathing in and out of the heart. What is a key tip or two to help me to be able to raise that up?
It's a sweet spot that you're after. You can try too hard. You can try forcing it with just breath. And you can get some high coherence scores just by forcing the breath, right? But you usually can't sustain it. And it'll go up and down. And you get to a point where even though you're still breathing really deeply and all that, your scores start going like this. Because it's an artificial approach. You're fatiguing your own system that way. The sweet spot is here. The sweet spot is nice, regular, rhythmic breathing in and out through the heart, but gentle. And the way you get to gentle is you activate a heart-related emotion.
Beautiful. Yes.
If you do it nice rhythmic breaths, and let's say you feel, okay, I want to put out some compassion to a friend, or I want to feel the love from my spouse or my pet, or my child or my pet, and you gently feel that feeling as you do the rhythmic breathing. When you hit that sweet spot, that's when you start seeing the big numbers. You're not trying too hard, but you're not just falling asleep and just sitting there doing nothing. And you've got a heart related emotion going on in your system. When you get that combination going, that's when you get higher numbers, and those higher numbers sustain themselves. That's how it gets done.
Is there, and that's what I've been practicing and learning about. Is there, I'm wondering, because you've had all this wealth of knowledge and people doing this, is there, are there one or two or three emotions or visualizations that people do that are most powerful, or is there one or two favorites for you?
Well, for people, I'm not going to put that prescription out there. I'm saying people have different things that they relate to. It's better for them to find the right feeling. I will say from our experience in training people that one of the ones that works best is the feeling of appreciation.
Uh,
Appreciation is more easily accessible, let's say, than a feeling of care or love and all that. It gets a little serious, gets a little deep,
yeah,
But appreciation, you can be like, I just appreciate the fact that it's been raining for a week here and there's sun outside today. And, I can appreciate that I'm actually going to get to ride my bicycle soon, because, the rain has stopped for a little while, or I can appreciate being on the interview, or I can appreciate that I'm growing, that I'm changing. There's always something you can find to appreciate. So it becomes a more easily accessible, uplifting emotion, right? So that's one thing I would say about it. So what works for me is really not trying too hard for starters, not making it a big deal on what I choose, just trying to feel a general feeling of heart connection. So I don't have to get overly specific. Now, in my case, it's a little different because I do a lot of inner type close-eyed work every day.
yeah,
It's part of what I do is my service and my mission. Yeah, I'm a business executive here at HeartMath, and I'm a speaker and I'm an author and I'm all that stuff. But ultimately, what I am is a guy who's trying to be the best he can be, who's doing what I can to help others do that for themselves. And so part of that's an energetic contribution. So I spend between an hour and an hour and a half a day at different times added up during the day in that state, in that meditative state. So for me, I have assignments. I predetermine what it is I'm going to try to experience and what I'm going to try to put my heart out towards. And that can vary from, personal things, health regeneration for me,
yeah.
other things to global issues that I know are having, some serious problem right now, to even wider things of not even identifying with the global issues, but just look at it as a radiation burning off some of the planetary density and not trying to get into what density, just like the density,
I love it.
and just keep those kind of feelings going. So that's the way I do it. And so after a while, you get to the point where you're sort of just dialing in a feeling. You're not having to identify it and label it so hard. It's almost like you're tuning in a station on a radio or something. You just like, you're in there, and you go to work from that place inside where you're connected to your heart. But in the beginning, it's good for people to try to find something that'll help them trigger a positive emotion. I have found also that pets are actually a good one for
Oh
that.
yeah,
They have they evoke love from us, and they love us unconditionally. There's usually not a lot of baggage and luggage associated with the pet like there would be if you're trying to love somebody and you've got the entanglement of relationship
yeah.
that's going on and all that. The pet's sort of neutral to that whole thing, right? And they just sort of love us unconditionally. And so pets are one that people sometimes use. Uh, the memory of a good event can also be one. Um, One of the sometimes the instruction we give is try to remember a time you felt good in life and try to re-experience it. You
Yeah.
know, and it could be when you're in a special place or when you had a special event in your life. Let's say it was something when you got acknowledged for an accomplishment. Those are all hard emotions. It isn't all just love and care and all that. But like, what does it feel like when you finally got acknowledged for some hard work you did, and your colleague said, great job. We want to congratulate you for that and honor you for what you did. That can be one of the greatest feelings in the world for people to feel appreciated. So maybe people have experienced some of that in their life or something else, and just try to re-experience that feeling. And as you do, you'll be connecting to your heart's intelligence.
Awesome. So now I've been on the Heart Cloud and I see what my score is, and I know I don't need to beat anybody. I'm like, boy, we talk about backdoor stuff is trying to beat people with heart coherence, but there are people doing that, and I don't understand this. There's some people getting obscene scores. Maybe it's 20,000 points a day, or maybe it's
And they
some
are.
like 100,000. Some just crazy numbers on there.
I know.
What are they doing,
Well,
and how are they doing it?
most of the people are doing it through sort of heart focused work. Now, we've run into a couple situations at times when we felt that the numbers were just totally unrealistic. The math didn't even check out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we found out they were finding ways to sort of cheat the system a little bit, and get around the thing. But we monitor those. Many of the people that are using it are actually just doing a lot of meditation, you know, and they get really good at it, and they get a lot of points. But those numbers are there to give people a benchmark to work against. But our founder, Doc Childre, one of the things that he says just should not exist is a feeling of competition in that. And so with the app, you can actually cut that feature on and off. If you don't want to see the numbers, you don't have to look at them. If you don't want to see what other people have done, the last thing we want this technology to do is to ever make anyone feel bad about themselves.
Oh, yeah.
That's counter to the reason we created it.
Is there a way? So the other device, I want to call it inner balance. Is it
Inner balance trainer.
So inner balance trainer, is there a way, if you are wearing that and it goes on a little clip, it's Bluetooth, goes to your phone, where you could, in theory, are there people staying in heart coherence all day long?
No, it's the reason that it's difficult to get that kind of coherent score because of body movement. When your body is moving, the heart cannot just stay in that sine wave like pattern. The reason is it has to adjust the timing in very subtle, nuanced ways to pump blood appropriately for that activity. If I was to jump out of this chair right now
Yeah.
and my heart rate didn't speed up, not enough blood would get to my brain and I would keel over on the floor. You see what I'm saying? So the heart's got to perform functions that relate to the physical body movements that are taking place. So if you can stick it on your ear and wear it all you want. And yeah, you can accumulate a lot of points that day. You can cut that Bluetooth sensor on and wear it until you go to bed and you'll get a bunch of points, but you won't necessarily get high coherence points. So every point that I get, let's put it this way. I've been using this thing since its inception. I would say 99% of the points that I've got were gotten the good old fashioned way of having my eyes closed and
Yeah.
being in the heart. And today I'm approaching 5 million coherence points.
Oh my God. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yep,
So,
yep. So I'm up there now, but I did mine through heart focused work. I'm not trying to accumulate points for the sake of accumulating points.
mhm,
I'm using the points as a way of sort of giving me a quantification of my energetic contribution to the world.
so, and for people to gain perspective, a decent 20-minute meditation is probably 1,000, if you're really good, 2,000 points. So to get to 5 million, that's a little mat
Yeah,
time you're putting in there.
that's correct. So my goal every day is I try to accumulate around 4,000 points a day. But that's me. Look, I'm a HeartMath executive, and don't put yourself in and say I'm going to get this thing from HeartMath, and I want 4,000 points a day. Don't do that. Build what feels comfortable for you. I've built this up over a long period of time, and the quantification is just something that's fun for me. It's nothing that defines me. It's nothing that defines my day or my contribution. It's just a way of adding another level of quality to it all.
How has it changed your life since you started using it? What changes took place in you?
Well, certainly, as most people can tell, I'm a lot better looking. Just kidding.
Doc, will I be able to dance again? Yes. Well, that's
and,
great. I couldn't dance in the first place.
and playful. So I don't know. I've been doing this so long, man. It's like it's hard to say what changes. All I can say is that I would be a very different human being had I not approached life from the heart in a very systematic way. And I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't had a lot of help from my friends, from our founder here, Doc Childre, and a lot of people that kept me doing it that way. Um, there's no way to know how my life would have worked out without that. So all I can base it on is how my life has worked out so far, and I feel like a very blessed human being to have all that I have. And I would say that i- i- if there's a reason that I got what I got, it's because I learned to listen to and follow my heart.
Beautiful, beautiful. Few quick wrap-up questions. Jessica, she always wants me to ask a question for parents and their kids. So what in the world do glowworms and chameleons have to do with anything?
I don't know why you're asking me this.
Well, because it's on your website. It's something to do with HeartMath, having to do with glowworms and chameleons. Some softwares for 6 to 8-year-olds, I believe.
Oh, well, that's probably one of the Institute's products, Smart Brain, Wise Heart. We create educational programs of a lot of kinds. Just so the listeners know, we're not just a technology company or a science company. We're a transformational company. And to transform, we also provide, training and education for people. We have certification programs for trainers, for coaches. We have something called the Ad Heart Facilitator program where you can learn enough heart math and then go out and share it with others. And that was one of my pet projects. We have lots of stuff online. And then on our nonprofit side, they deal with children and with families and with education. They have some great programs for children. Smart Brain Wise Heart is one of the programs, and it has little, I think there are glowworm characters in
Perfect.
there and things like that. And that's what that is. It's like we try to make this accessible for people at all ages, and regardless of background and culture. And so the educational component to heart math is actually the most important part. The science supports that. It gives credence to the educational components. The technology adds something that helps you to integrate what you learn, right? It's an integrative tool. But learning heart math tools and techniques and concepts, and then learning how they can be applied in your life, is what's most important. And that's what we're really more about. Uh, Again, science is important. That's something that is real important to who we are. And the technology was an outgrowth of the science, but it's all designed to say, how can you become a better person?
Beautiful.
Let me offer you some things that may help. We're not the only thing you can use. We're not the biggest deal in town or any of that stuff. We don't want to be seen that way, but we've got something that's worked. It's worked for millions of people around the world, and we've been doing it for a long time. Maybe there's something here for you, and we hope that there is.
What would you tell parents to help their kids with heart coherence today?
Well, I think the biggest challenge with children today is that they are having to live in a world that requires an understanding of emotion in order to make sense of it. They are being buffeted constantly with external influence. They don't have a solid foundation of their own emotional nature underneath them, and therefore they struggle. They go through lots of that, and they can't make sense of themselves, or they can't make sense of others, and they certainly can't make sense of a world seen through those eyes. Giving children self security by helping them develop their own self security, which is learning to understand and then better regulate their emotions, would be the thing that I would say would be the most important thing a parent could do today. That's the equipment that they really need to navigate life. And they're not getting much of that through the educational system. They're getting different skill sets that are important, but they're not getting that. And so giving them an understanding of their emotions, and giving them a connection to the heart. Children are doing amazing things, and they're saying amazing things. Some of the things that children say related to heart math are some of the most inspiring things that I hear about us.
Yeah.
And they come right out of the mouth of babes. So giving them that connection to their heart, letting them know that it's real, letting them know that it's something they can trust, it's something they can develop and grow with, and that it will give them the ability to understand themselves and their emotions, and therefore the world, would be to me what would a parent could do for their children, or a grandparent, or anyone who works with children.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So where can people go to find out more, to find everything heart math related?
HeartMath.com
Yeah.
and HeartMath.org, for profit, nonprofit. And combined, we're one mission, but two different setups of organization to serve the needs of humanity, but one mission. So you go to either website, heartmath.com.org, check things out. Of course, we're on Facebook. Join our Facebook groups, follow us on Facebook and all that. Check out our videos on YouTube. For example, if you wanted to see a video of me speaking, for example, and saying this stuff, go to Howard Martin TEDx. It's the most popular video on me is out there. It's a couple 100,000 views on that thing. It's a TEDx talk that I did. So in 15 minutes, I explain heart math. So things like that. TEDx, Howard Martin TEDx. There's YouTube channels. There's Facebook stuff. I mean, there's a lot you can get there. If you have any questions, you can simply call heartmath.com. There's a toll-free number there. We have internal staff, people that have worked here for a long time, that are here to really assist people to find out what it is that would be best for them. Not to sell someone something, but to really sort of address their needs and see if there's something here that we have that could be useful. And then from that, maybe a transaction occurs. But the impetus behind it is care, and care for the people. So call us up, and we'll be glad to try to help you figure out if something that we've done here at Heart Math can fit into your life.
Beautiful.
And for you, Michael, I'm going to send you a inner balance trainer Bluetooth sensor
Woohoo!
that that you can use with your Tesla key. I won't even call it your phone. You can hook it up to your Tesla key,
Yep.
and off you go. And I'll send you one of those so you can experiment with that. Thank you very much for your interest in us, your dedication to supporting our mission, and having me on the show regularly like you do. So I really want to honor you and appreciate you for that.
Well, thank you so much. And two last things. First off, I had you on, I think it was last July. Maybe it's just you're in a more relaxing period in time, but I see a cumulative effect of your work. You're a little bit different Howard than you were last time. You're like a new and improved model. You were great
Ah.
before. You're even better now.
Well, that's the goal. Thank you very much for that. But if I can be a better Howard Martin tomorrow than I am today, then I'm doing the right things.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Any last words you want to share with people?
Yeah, just the world's going through changes. Be kind to yourself. Be compassionate to yourself. Don't lose your hope and your positive momentum when things don't go your way, or when you begin to see the world through a sort of a down slanted view. Try to turn that around as quick as you can. There's a forward momentum that's happening. It's up to us to access it. We have the ability to do that, and a lot of it is got to do with simple things like turning around our attitudes more in the moment. You've got the power to do that. You've got your own best friend. It's called your heart, and it can help you do that. And so just try to keep the forward momentum going. That's the main thing I'm saying. Allow for yourself to have your ups and your downs and your bad days and your good days and all that stuff. But in the middle of it all, try to keep the trajectory headed in a positive momentum, because it's there. And life can get better for you and for each and every one of us as this whole new world begins to unfold.
I love you, man. I love you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Howard. This has been phenomenal. Each interview gets better than the last. I am so, so, so excited to have you on today. Thank you so, so much.
My pleasure. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying be well, have fun, get heart intelligence, and begin getting in heart coherence today, and shine bright. Woohoo! Thank you so, so much.
Sure. That was a good interview. We did it.
We did it.
Light out of my face. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed our interview. So yeah, we'll do it whenever it feels right to you. Let me know, and we'll get together and do these things some more. I'll get you a sensor so you can play with that too.
Awesome. I've got another group class coming up this current week, and I had been thinking about it, and it actually escaped my radar, and now I think I'm going to go back and make it optional but highly recommended that each one of our members has one of your devices for our work that we're going to be doing.
That'd be great. Whatever feels right to you in regards to that, would be perfect.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!